Hi guys, in this video we're going to learn how to ask a good software question, the different parts that make it up so that you can get help as quickly as possible. But first, thank you for joining one of my courses. I really appreciate it. I hope you will enjoy it. There are 4 steps to asking a good software question. That's background, goal, problem, and example. So why might you want to ask a good software question? Well, there's 2 main reasons, and they're both equally important. The first reason is that by asking a good software question, you're providing the person answering as much detail as possible. And for example, in our courses, that's going to mean that we are going to be able to get back to you immediately and answer your question. And if you don't provide all the information, then that means that we're going to have some back and forth where we ask you for more information, and then some time has to pass before you come back to us with that information, and then we may have to ask some more things, and so on. So by providing all of the information, it means you can get help quicker. The second reason for asking a good software question is that asking a good software question shows the person answering that you really care. And what that means is when you spend the time crafting a nice question that has all the required information, you put in the time, then the person answering is going to feel really positive about helping you out. If you ask a bad software question, sometimes it can feel like you don't really care about getting an answer, or you don't really care for finding the solution yourself. And of course, in our courses, we're always going to help you out, but when you ask software questions outside of our courses, you may not get an answer if you don't ask a good software question. So let's get started with the background. The background is any information that helps the person answering understand you and your problem more easily. If you're taking one of our courses, usually our questions will be linked to a lecture. So we will have most of this background already. You can just ask your questions without providing much background. But when you're asking questions outside of a course, normally you'll have to provide some background. For example, you've got some data in a file that describes customers of a shop. The data is in a CSV with this format. You explain the format. Or if you've got some sort of database, then you can talk about what that database does or how it works, and so forth. All of this background is going to mean that people looking at your question and trying to help you out will understand the context around it. The next step is the goal. What are you trying to do? What do you want your code to achieve? Without knowing your goal, it's almost impossible to recommend an approach in programming. In this example, let's say you want to add together all of the total spend of all customers in your file to calculate the total revenue of the shop. This is a good goal because it shows the person answering your question exactly what you want to achieve. The more that your goal is around doing something specific with the code or writing a specific bit of code, the worse your goal is going to be. So try to keep your goals less technical and more about what you want the code to do or what you want it to achieve. Next up comes the problem. What issue you've encountered while trying this yourself? Because of course the assumption here, whenever you're asking a good software question, is that you have spent time trying this out yourself and you haven't managed. It is possible during your software career that people will ask you questions without trying it first themselves, and that can be really frustrating because it shows a lack of respect for your time. If somebody wants to take up your time to ask you a question, the least they can do is first try themselves to figure it out. So the problem is what issue you've encountered while trying the problem yourself. For example, I've opened the file for reading, but when I read it and use a for loop to go over the contents, I notice it's looking at each character in the file instead of each line. Also, I don't know how to get the column value of each line separately. So here, there's maybe 2 problems in this example, but that's okay. It explains what they've tried to do, what the issue is, that it's looking at each character in the file instead of each line. So this is a nice problem because it tells the reader exactly what's going wrong. Finally, and one of the most important parts, is what you've come up with already. For 2 reasons. The first one is it shows us with your code what you already know, and that can be really important. The second thing is if your code shows an approach that we would try when answering your question, but it doesn't work, then we are immediately going to try something else. Whereas if you don't show any code, then the reader might suggest something that you've already tried. In this example, this person has opened the file and then read it and printed some stuff out, but that's largely irrelevant for this video. Show anything else you found or seen. If there was an error, you'd want to show it out. If there was some output, you want to show it out, and so on. If there's multiple files in the example, then you'd want to show them as well. Alright, so the end result is this is a rather large question maybe for some people, but it explains everything you need. You've got some background, you've got the goal, you've got the problem, and you've got the example code at the bottom. And what that means when you come back, certainly as a programmer reading this question, I immediately know what's wrong with this problem and how I can help this person achieve their goal. So again, 4 steps to a good software question that you should always follow. The first one is providing some background or context on your problem. The second one is describing the goal, what you want your code to achieve. Then, what problems you've encountered while trying it out yourself. And finally, give the examples, what code you've already got, so that we can understand the problem a bit better. Alright, thanks for joining me in this video. If you're in one of my courses again, thanks for joining them, and I hope you'll enjoy them. I'll see you in the next one.